If you ask me to convert this video from MP4 to MOV, I would reply that it is very easy. However, if you ask somebody to convert to any religion you can think of, would that be actually the same thing? For many cultures across the world, these people, if they choose to do so, would be perceived as traitors. And this is because the process and even the term of conversion have both very negative connotations. So this video is not about how much culture people retain or reject in the process. It is more about why does the process and the term we're using in English language have such negative connotations. In this video, I'll explore where these terms come from, how they have been used, and what alternative terms people have thought of. Let's go. I'm William, I'm a research fellow in sociology at the University of Warwick in the UK, got my PhD in sociology in 2016 from the EHESS in France. And the work I'll be presenting today stems from a book chapter I have written titled People Do Not Convert But Change: Critical Analysis of Concepts of Spiritual Transitions. And it has been published in the book Moving In and Out of Islam, edited by Karin van Nieuwkerk. So it doesn't mean that I hold the truth. I could be completely wrong. Published work just means that your work has been deemed of a certain value amongst the scientific community, and that you have brought maybe new perspectives or simply food for thought, which is my only intention. So let's look at history. Until the early 20th century in France, people switching to Islam were called people who make themselves Turks because the enemy at the time were the Ottomans. So it was more like becoming the enemy, becoming a traitor. And if you look at far-right narratives in France, this is pretty much still the case. When it comes to white French people embracing Islam, they are seen as traitors to the white race or European values. A similar phenomenon is found in China, where people embracing Islam or having Muslim names were called Maluk Melayu, meaning that they have become Malay, again because Malay at the time was the enemy. Similarly, the idea of embracing Islam is very strongly linked to the idea of embracing a foreign culture. As a matter of fact, for many, embracing Islam means to embrace a new form of belonging to a new community, which involves learning not only the religion, but a specific cultural context, a historical context, a different language, which is not necessarily Arabic, and a whole set of new behaviors, habits, and rituals. People would talk about the Arabization of new Muslims in France because, as a matter of fact, embracing Islam is likely to lead people to befriending or marrying people from North African background, even though they are not exactly Arabs. But this is another story. And because of this historical baggage, the term conversion has this connotation of uncritically approving or accepting Islam, as if one was joining a cult. It also implies that the person is constantly considered as a new Muslim, even if they have been practicing for, let's say, 10 or 20 years. So at what point does someone cease being a new Muslim? Bottom line, this conversion narrative has been heavily used by the media and politicians to vehiculate the idea that when someone converts to Islam, they somehow have been forced into doing it. Let's also look at what sociology says about that. One of the main definitions of the term conversion comes from sociologist Arthur Nock in 1988. He says that it is a reorientation of the soul, a bifurcation that implies that the ancient was bad and the new is good. So the idea of conversion in the social sciences has been historically this idea of making a U-turn, a 180-degree turn from something bad to something good. However, taking into account social and individual realities as well as subjective realities, so what people think and perceive themselves as, has led researchers to realize that it is not that very simple linear journey from a point A to a point B. It is much more complex. So Travisano in 1970 writes about alternation as a gradual process of transformation of the identity. Lewis Rambo in 1996 described a multifaceted process of transformation which can either be sudden and short or long and progressive. Hefner in 1993 says it is a constant work of adjusting one's understanding. The French sociologist Michel Viviurca in 2000 highlights the social dimension of conversion, describing it as the act of joining a collective identity, and stresses that the process is also built upon new social bonds and not only on a single person. Lofland and Skonhovd in 1981 write that motives to change one's faith are various and multiple. It can be intellectual, experimental, affectional, mystical, and much more. And therefore, journeys of conversion are not simple or linear. Eventually, Stefano Allievi in 1998 says that the phenomenon can be described as a continuum. So let's look at the etymology, the Latin and Greek origins. First of all, if you open any dictionary, you could read that conversion means to transform something into something different. Conversion comes from the Latin conversio, meaning to turn back. The word conversio itself derives from the Greek language epistrophe and or metanoia. Epistrophe means a change of orientation, turning back to the origin or to oneself or to the perfect ideal. And you may already see that there are similarities between the concept of epistrophe and the one of fitra in Islam, but we'll talk about this in a minute. Metanoia means change of way of thinking, to repent or to be born again or to exit a state of perversion and sin. If we look at the Gospel, the Latin Christian Bible, the Vulgate, it uses conversi as a synonym of change, turning away from idols or repenting. Sometimes another term is used, which is vertimini, meaning it's the imperative, repent. So the concept of conversion in the Christian tradition denotes still a complete and radical change with a time before and a time after, and the two being completely incompatible. It means like turning one's back on the previous state towards the past and completely abandoning it. So actually, let's have a look at the past, knowing that the Bible as we know it was of course in Latin, but the Latin Vulgate was also a translation from Hebrew. So what does the Hebrew language say about conversion? The Tanakh, or the Hebrew Bible, hardly mentions people experiencing spiritual transitions. The only term that appears is ger, and it's plural gerim. Ger is an ambivalent word coming from the root gur. It is often translated as stranger and is sometimes around the meaning of to inhabit, to reside, or to sojourn. Gerim were those who moved to settle somewhere. The ones who settle in a new home. It was travelers who do not change themselves, but change their homeland, their belonging. So in Judaism, Gerim are not considered as newcomers, but already members of the community of believers. This idea of ger has been put forward to get rid of any misconceptions regarding new Jews and the past they may have lived as, let's say, polytheists. So a newcomer to Judaism is not considered as an ex-Christian or an ex-atheist, but simply as a Jew. So basically this argument would be equivalent to stopping from using the term convert or conversion and considering people already part of the religion or the system of beliefs they are part of. In Islam, it would be considering the people simply as Muslims and not converts to Islam. So actually, what does the Arabic language and Islamic scriptures say? But first, there is a term that is rising in popularity amongst people who embrace Islam, and that term is revert. The term of reversion comes from an authentic hadith of the Prophet Muhammad, alluding to the concept of fitra. It says, "No child is born but upon fitra, the primordial nature of being attracted to God. It is his parents who make him a Jew, a Christian, or a Zoroastrian." Thus, embracing Islam is perceived as coming back to an original state, an original purity, that is to say, a connection with God. And it is not incompatible, you would have, with the Latin revertimi, as you may have guessed that the roots are shared in this case. In Arabic, people adopting the Islamic faith are often described as to enter yadkhul, or to embrace yahtanik, Islam. And the most recent study of male narratives of conversion by Sulaiman and Anderson suggests that people also suggested another term, mu'allaf. So mu'allaf is a term found in the Quran. It is one of the different categories of people eligible for zakat, and it is roughly translated by those whose hearts need softening. Also, in the Quran, the idea of embracing Islam comes with the verb aslama. For example, the Prophet Ibrahim is described as he has surrendered to the Lord of the worlds. So aslama is the equivalent of surrendering, being subordinate. In the Latin sense, subordinare, to set in order, enter in order. The Muslim is the one who accepts this order of the universe as created by God and willingly starts towards safekeeping and preserving as a Khalifa, as a steward, this order, this symbiosis, this harmony. And I'm referring to a previous video I made about what Islam means. However, researchers point at the fact that switching to terms such as reversion might not be extremely useful, add anything new to critical analysis. And similarly, other scholars, such as Sulaiman, say that using Arabic terms might not really make sense for people who are not Muslim or not Arabic speakers. As a conclusion, for everyone on earth, Muslim, non-Muslim, believers or not, I like to think that we are all in transit somehow. One day we may have faith and the next day it might be gone. Even for people born and raised in Muslim families, they may not believe in anything until something clicks, or not. I very much like the concept of transitions because it helps me understand and describing the process, which is more often than not a very long journeys with ups and downs, bumps and other challenges on the road. And at the end of the day, something Sufis would really resonate with. We are all travelers only temporarily on this world. Back to our original question, is it possible to find an all-rounder substantive able to describe the phenomenon of people switching from one religion to another, or from unbelief to a certain state of belief, or who have been raised in a certain tradition and have decided to get back to it again? I'm not sure that there is any definite answers to this. In fact, the question remains open. But in the meantime, the best alternative remains to clearly define the terms we are using when we are talking about this kind of phenomenon. Thank you so much for watching, but please again do not subscribe to my channel. In the meantime, take care of each other and until next time.